I say knuckles up, knuckles up. And so that's a fight term of, when you're in a fight, you want to try and keep your knuckles up. It's good defensive posture, but it's good offensive posture. And, we're not all hockey fighters, but I promise you, we're all in a fight in one way or another. We're fighting stuff in our hearts and our minds. We're fighting for what we believe in. We're fighting our battles. And if you read my story, that's a man who almost lost his fight. And I just want to encourage whoever is listening to keep your knuckles up in the fight. Don't lose the fight, because there is a greater purpose. God has a greater purpose for you in your life. And just whatever happens, don't give up the fight and keep those knuckles up.
G-O-A-T-O, greatest show of all time, the Garage Mahal.
Robbins getting ready to get into it.
Kicking it like Messi, Undertaker on the rise. Austin 316, I just stun them and unwind off the top rope. Oh yeah, Randy watching fly. Ric Flair.
Blue Robbins. Going with Bobby Robbins. As a right by Robbins, another right by Robbins, and down blue. Here we go, Robbins and Carroll. Robbins with the shield lands a couple of big ones.
So was a college sports, Atlanta wins the Heisman. But the clock is ticking, so they say it's time to go.
Right over the top. Now a couple rights landed there by Robbins.
Welcome back, Go fans, to the greatest of all time podcast show, Go Radio. I'm the big man, and I am jacked up for our next guest. Former professional hockey player, had an absolutely savage and wild road to the NHL, and also an amazing author who has just launched his book, Sex, Drugs, Pucks, and Souls, Secret Life of a Hockey Fighter. I'm so pumped to welcome Bobby Robbins. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, man. I know you are super busy with the launch of your book, so thank you for taking the time.
Of course. I'm honored to be here. Looking forward to it.
And, Go Radio pounced on our copy of your book a few months back when you had one of your pre-sales. And I got to say, honestly, I enjoyed it so much. What a wicked story. And not only that, the way you write, you have a God-given gift for sure, man.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, it is God-given. I've been able to write my whole life, and I was always a hockey player first and foremost, but behind that, I was always, viewed myself as an author, as an artist, and was always writing. And as a young boy, was getting stuff published, and just always knew I had this God-given talent, and kind of had that on the back burner. I ran a blog throughout my hockey career, which was got pretty popular, but just knew I was going to have a story. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do the hockey thing first, and then when it's all over, then I'll write the story. And then it, as you said there, it turned out to be the craziest, savagest story of all time. So I'm blessed to be able to capture that thing in a book.
For sure, man. I can't wait for it to get swirling at the West Coast here in Vancouver. So we're going to get into it. But first things first, Bobby, I got to say what I'm wearing as usual. Okay. And for you, I got on the Boston Bruins jersey. It's the 2010 Winter Classic edition. And this, nice, I would think, is very symbolic for you. This is where you reached your ultimate goal in playing in the NHL. And you did it. And you're the oldest rookie to make an opening day NHL roster. And that says a lot, man. Do you remember going into that camp? Because I know you were dialed in. Were you looking around the dressing room and pointing at guys and saying, hey, I got to fight that guy. I got to take that guy's spot. How did it all go about?
So that was on the second year of my contract, my NHL deal with Boston. So by the time that year came around, Sean Thornton, the Bruins resident tough guy, obviously a legend, got to give all respects to that guy. He had gone to Florida. So that right wing spot, really the enforcer spot, opened up in Boston. And I knew that they had been priming me for a few years to take that spot. And I mean, I knew that it was available. I did look around the locker room. There's 4 or 5 guys who fight, and you always have guys on your radar. And but at the same time, I don't think anybody was trying to take that fighter spot for me. Maybe a few younger guys, but I definitely kept my eye on them. But by the time that came around, I mean, I was in true pro NHL form by that point in my career. Unfortunately, it took me 10 years to figure out how to be a good pro and get to that level. But by the time I got there, I was ready and I was NHL ready. So I didn't I knew nobody was going to take it from me. And you know, if anybody tried to, I would give them the opportunity, and I would have definitely squared up and said, "Hey, give it your best shot."
And you, the year before, you fought a stupid amount of times, right?
Yeah, during the lockout, I fought 41 times and led the
That's
whole earth in fighting majors. It was
that is
crazy.
that is unheard of, man. Nothing was stopping you, but your NHL stint was short-lived. And everything up until that point and the downfall is the real meat of your story, man. Sex, drugs, pucks, and souls. Savage memoir, honestly. And for me, I think about this and I say, and I think I speak for the majority. There's things in life that I'm gonna probably take to my grave, but not you. You really laid it all down. Why did you do this, man?
I put it all on the line, you know, and I why did I do it? It took me a while to get to that point. I wrote a big chunk of this years and years ago, shortly after my career ended in 2016 and 2000 even 15. I wrote a huge chunk of this story, and I just decided I was for me, I think it was a lot of therapy. It was therapeutic, and I just put it all on paper. I was going through a massive downfall, like you said. I went through a mental collapse, and I, you know, almost lost my life. It almost got me, and I just said, I'm just, you know, I'm a writer. I'm a trained writer. I'm an English creative writing major. I'm going to write my book, and I just spit it all out without any filter, really for myself. I wanted to write the book that I would have wanted to read, and I love wild stories. I love Hunter S. Thompson. I was just reading some Hunter Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas last night. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I like. I like Madman, you know, what on me. And I put it all out there, but by the time I wrote it, I said, "There's no way I can share this kind of stuff." I was like, "This is for me." I just kind of I put it on the shelf, and I sat there and I tried coaching. I did some mentoring. I did some sports ministry. I was trying to find my stride, figuring out what life had for me and what was in store. And then I kept coming back to this book and saying, "Well, what if I wrote the book that the 23-year-old version of me who's sitting on a bus playing D1 hockey, giving it everything I have on the ice, but running parallel with that, just an absolute menace off the ice, consumed with sex, consumed with drugs, consumed with pucks or hockey, and having no regard for the anything spiritual or the soul, just living that life. What's the book that somebody would throw into my seat that I would actually want to read? Because I read a million books that you know, coaches would have us read this guy's book and this guy's book, and I was always like, this is so stupid. I'm not even interested. I'd have to like I'd look up the book review on Amazon and the synopsis, and I wouldn't even read it. But I really asked myself, what's the book I would want to read? And I was like, I would want to read the Savage Memoir, and so that's when it started forming. And then I had a bigger, really a bigger call and a bigger purpose on my life. I was like, this isn't just about me. This is my story. I have this talent, this God given talent to do this. I think this book can make an impact on people and not just be this crazy story. And so that's what I set out to write. No filter, the real nuts, everything on the line, airing out all my dirty laundry, having no filter. And it formed, and I was like, after it formed, I'm like, I can't do this. This is way, like you said. I mean, and when people have when they read it, they're gonna see that it's unlike anything that's ever been done before, especially from an athlete, and actually written by the athlete in an artistic way. But eventually, I said, "This is my call. This is my book, and this is my life." You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to hide behind any shame or embarrassment, or mostly it's fear. I'm not going to hide behind fear. And so I just decided to put it out there and do it as real and as raw as I could possibly do. You know, thinking about that younger version of me, like I wanted to blow that guy's mind, I wanted to blow your mind and everybody who reads its minds, but at the same time to make an impact and change their life forever. And so that was the task. And I think personally, I think I accomplished it. I love this book. I think there's greatness in this book, and I hope that I hope there is success as well, and I hope that people read it and love it, and I hope it sells and changes my life and my family's life forever.
For sure, buddy. And I want to talk about the hockey part of it. You dealt with a ton of adversity. I'm talking getting cut, the injuries, basically the meat market of the pro leagues. You were all over the place. Why continue to fight for your dream? Because you could have just easily went back home to your nice little town in Wisconsin and be a little less stress free and live a content life. What kept you going? What was telling you, hey, I got to reach my dream?
I mean, for whatever reason, I always had that drive.
Yeah.
And I think for me, and I touch on it in the book, is I grew up in a tiny town in northern Wisconsin, and I was the only person of color in that town. My mom's Filipino, so I'm a first generation Filipino American. She came over here and she married my dad, who's a white guy, and so I was always looking for my identity. Identity is a big part of the book. Who am I? What am I? Why am I? Uh, and I figured out early on. I thought if I could make it to the NHL, then I'd be okay. And for whatever reason, I just had that goal early on, like so many other kids. But for me, it was a little deeper because I think that's where I was trying to find my identity and self worth. It's like
Mhm.
if I can make it there, then they won't make fun of me, or then they'll think I'm something. Then I'll be able to fit in. And for whatever reason, I was given that gift of drive and determination, and I didn't always have it, and I failed a lot of times. But for whatever reason, I always picked myself back up and just kept clawing my way, inch by inch, and I always had that goal in sight, and knew that I could accomplish it, whatever goal that I put in there in my mind to accomplish. And I knew that it was just like little steps every day. I just, from an early age, I knew the formula for some reason.
Yeah, and I think that adds to another level of inspiration from your book, man, to just keep clawing away. And it says it you make an NHL at 32. That says something. You always referred when you seem to be playing well on the ice, you use the words I blacked out. I'm blacking out.
Yeah.
What did that look like on the ice if I were to watch that?
You'd never be able to forget it because something something it's almost like something miraculous would happen out there on a shift. Like you'd see a hit that you'd never seen before, and a guy just dead on the ice exploded, and me just, for some reason, I was able to take it to another level, to transcend what normal people play hockey like. I was able to play with so much heart and emotion on my sleeve in that blacked out state, um, that I wasn't thinking. It was just like
Mhm.
pure passion and aggression, kind of just all wrapped up in a ball of forechecking. And guys would be flying all over the ice, and I'm taking the puck to the net, starting in, even before junior. Fans just always took to me and rooted for me. And I was never the best player on the ice, and maybe I wasn't the best skater, but I was just out there smashing and going as hard as I could. And I figured out, I was like, if I just go as hard as I can, literally 100%, good things will happen, and I'm going to make it. And so that was my mentality every single shift. And I tried to just lay it out there, balls out every single shift. And, that would later tie in with fighting and the way that I played in pro hockey. But, I think if you saw me play, you would see something that was different. Like, there's something different about that guy. I like the way that guy plays. I'm going to watch that guy. I'm going to root for that guy. And so for whatever reason, the fans just took to me wherever I played.
For sure. And the hockey world is pretty small. And one of my buddies played with you, goalie Brian Stewart,
Oh yeah.
says you're a wicked dude and exactly what you're, a savage.
Yeah.
He says hi, by the way.
Oh, tell him hello. What a legend that guy is.
Yeah, for sure. Um, do you have a memorable fight? That blacking out led to a lot of scraps. Do
It
you
did.
have
I mean, yeah, a lot of memorable fights. I think the number is 132 pro fights, and can't say I won them all, but I showed up, man. I showed up, knuckles up every time. But the most memorable one I think was when I fought Adam McQuaid, a tough guy on the Bruins roster, a real savage, and that guy plays hockey the right way. I have a lot of respect for that guy, and I capture it. I think I capture it in such a cool way in the book when the lockout ended, and I don't even know what year it was, 2012 maybe, and we got the call. The Providence Bruins were going to play against the Boston Bruins in the Garden in Boston, sold out in 5 minutes. The lockout ended. They opened up the game. They gave tickets away for free. It sold out in 5 minutes. We had just gone out. We did a 3-3, won three in a row, and we had a big team party. I had a big bender. We were all hungover that day, and got a text, "Hey, we're playing the Bruins tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh crap! Okay." First of all, I'm as hungover as a man can be, so I start pounding water and like preparing myself for the biggest game of my life. And we go up there and nobody knew, like, is this a real game? Well, what's going to happen? And Claude Julien, the head coach of Boston, comes in and addresses our team and says, "Hey, it's a real game. This was I believe it was a Tuesday, and the Bruins played their first game on Friday, so it was a tune-up game." And everybody was asking, "Are you going to fight Thornton?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm fighting Thornton. Buckets off center ice. This
Yeah.
is going to happen." And I was nervous because he's a real tough guy. He's a technical fighter. He's a lefty. I hate fighting lefties, but I had trained my whole life for this, and I was like, this is not gonna pass me by. And luckily, Claude Julien comes in the locker room and tells us it's a real game, checking, play it hard, but no fighting. And he kind of looks over at me and gives me the nod, like, "Hey, like no fighting." And so I love those days where I could just play hockey, especially after a fight. I just knew I got that fight out of the way. Now I was just going to play hockey and just black out and lay it on the line. So that's just what I set my mind to do. I laid it on the line, and we end up beating the Bruins, which was crazy. The Providence Bruins AHL team beat the NHL's Boston Bruins in their home rink, and at the end of the game, I end up getting in a scrap. It just exploded out of nowhere with Adam McQuaid, and you can check out the video. We're just chucking bombs back and forth, and one of mine squeaks through, and he lands on his back, and I land on him, and the place is going nuts. And that really was a defining moment for my career. I mean, that was that I signed my NHL deal shortly after that, so I think it was a statement for sure.
Unreal, man. There's so many little legendary stories throughout the whole book, man. And that adds to you living with a wolf, a lot of drinking bar stories of you spitting blood on a chick at the bar.
Yeah.
Your first pro your first day as a pro, that's a legendary story. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know
Tugger story.
I don't know how at one point you didn't get kicked out of hockey.
I don't know either. I mean, I guess I say it in the book all the time. Someone was looking out for me, and now I know that there was someone looking out for me, and I know who he is now. And uh, yeah, I was an idiot, in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, I was kind of a naive kid too. I think a big part of the story is just the transition from a boy into a man. And for some people that happens at 15, some at 18. For me, I guess it didn't really happen until I was about 28 when I started to figure it out and started taking control of my life and said, "I am going to be a man and I am going to chase my destiny and make this happen." But I wanted to capture all those crazy stories. I mean, I've lived a hard life. Like, I've partied hard. You know how the hockey world is, and we've all partied hard. And there's something about that camaraderie when you're partying with the boys. And my inscription in the book is "for the boys."
Yeah.
Furta. So I
Yeah.
really wrote this for the guys, and I wanted to capture some of those scenes. And I think I captured some of that madness of just those blackout drunken nights, and just that party scene when you're partying with all your teammates. I mean, if you haven't experienced it, you've missed out on something that's pretty special. And for us who have experienced it, I mean, you can't really explain it when your whole team's out there and just letting loose and tying one on. There's something special about that.
For sure.
You're living in the moment.
Absolutely. And in my college days at Michigan Tech, I don't really remember the wins and losses, but I remember those good
Right.
times with the boys, man. For
Right.
sure.
Oh, you went to Tech. I forgot that. So
Yeah.
you're just north of me. I'm in northern Wisconsin right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know a lot about the UP.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm on a border town between Wisconsin and the UP. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
it up there.
Yeah, miss it. I miss it there. It's and in the summer right now, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Um, before we get into some deep things, are you able to I really want to paint a picture of your first fight as a junior in chapter 3, I think.
Yeah.
Are you able to read that part of the
Yeah,
that would
for
be
sure. For
awesome.
sure.
I love that those that start of that paragraph, that chapter.
It's a great scene.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. And sometimes it's weird when I say like, "Oh, that's a great scene." A lot of this I write in a way. So I was a trained creative writing English major, and I guess there's two schools of thought in writing. It's one, you write down a structure and you kind of fill it in and you extract the sentences in a very methodical way. The other one is more of stream of consciousness, which is like I'm going to open myself up to just letting it flow out of me. And so that was how I was trained. Instead of having a formula, I was trained by a famous author. His name is Andre Dubus III. He wrote House of Sand and Fog, New York Times bestseller. I got to study for a year under him, just a one-on-one study with a famous author in college, which was pretty amazing. And that was the methodology that we used, was the stream of consciousness, just letting the story flow. And so a lot of my book, I opened up and I sat down behind the keyboard. A lot of times I'd write with my eyes closed and just let it flow out of me. And so like when I read this, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I love this. And I just really love this book. I think I captured my true essence in this. And
Mhm.
so anyway, this is chapter 3, junior hockey adventure. This is the beginning when it really all started. You know how where'd you play junior at? Oh, you were out in BC?
BCHL here, yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure it was the same out there. Like when we were playing midget or high school, you're gonna go to junior tryouts, and for me back in the day, it was, are you gonna wear a visor or are you not gonna wear a visor? And if you don't wear a visor, you're putting out a message that you're open to fight. So for me, I was like, oh, I'm not wearing a visor. I'm gonna fight. But I'd never been in a fight before,
Yeah,
and there was just that mystique about junior hockey and the aspect of fighting. So
for sure.
all right, I'll start. I'll just read junior hockey adventure. First shift, go fight someone, a wise hockey sage prophesies to me. This will get you noticed, then focus on playing good hockey for the rest of the tryout. Real fighting, bare knuckles, bone on bone, shows you who you really are. No room for anything but truth and certainty when throwing bones at an opponent and getting bones thrown back at you. The only things present are lightning fast, twitching reactions of muscles and tendons. They begin as electrical impulses of sparks from somewhere deep inside you. Their only reason for existing is to keep you alive. This is junior hockey. We're allowed to fight now. Drop your gloves and hunt for souls. It's crunch time. Either I make a junior team or who knows what'll happen. Maybe I get a job at the cheese factory or go somewhere or find somewhere to go to school. Maybe I just rot away and give up on my dreams altogether, an endless stream of uncertainty and unknowns. Okay, here I am. Open tryout with the Springfield Junior Blues of the North American Hockey League, Tier 2 Junior A. I have to make the team, period. I've never been in a fight before, on or off the ice, mostly because I'm scared to lose. Clap. The puck drops and I'm working as hard as humanly possible, going 100 miles an hour, trying to put the puck in the net, hit everything in sight, and make the right plays. Some of the veterans from last season's team are at the tryout. You know who they are. You can smell it, sense it. They walk proudly and wear the official team apparel and gear. I want to be them. I chip the puck past the defenseman, beat him to the corner. His D partner gathers the puck off the boards. I fly in like a cannonball, crunch him up against the glass, use my stick like a spear to dig the puck out from beneath his crumpled body. I get control of the puck. Someone cross checks me from behind, sends me headfirst into the boards. I pop right up and hear those fateful words, "You want to go?" I shake it off and start skating up ice to back check. The play drifts away into the neutral zone. Mid stride, I have a thought pop into my brain. It's time. I turn around and let my gloves slide off. I unbuckle my helmet, bounce it off the ice, and turn to my opponent. I watch him elegantly toss off one glove, then two. They fly through the air with a flare of panache. He unbuckles his helmet like this isn't his first time, sends it spinning and careening down the ice. If I wasn't so scared, I'd be impressed. He's one of the veterans on the team, about my size, wiry, looks tough and rugged to the bone, those piercing dark eyes. He places his knuckles up beside his face. Just then, the big nuclear warhead of the camp, the resident tough guy, old Goonie McGinty, steps in front of my opponent and pushes him aside. No, you're fighting me instead, he barks. If the first guy shed his gloves with poetic artistic flair, Goonie takes things to an entirely different level altogether, like some kind of maestro. His gloves arc perfectly through the humid air of the arena, landing softly next to his helmet that's still spinning like a top and making a slight scraping sound on the ice, his own symphony of blood and guts. I'm looking at two veterans on the team, both standing there with their gloves off and furious faces. I must have rubbed them the wrong way. That means I'm playing good hockey. Time to back it up. I don't know what to do, so I do the only thing I can. I put my knuckles up and step forward to engage. Goonie McGinty steps forward too. After a quick square up, we come together and grapple. I get a good grab on his jersey. I'm in full defensive mode. Everything turns into slow motion. The crowd and the scouts and the other players all disappear. It's me and Goonie. It's just me and Goonie in this little bubble of hatred together. He throws a big overhand right toward my face, but I see it coming and I lift my left arm to block it. He winds up again and throws another haymaker. I see this one coming too and block it with my left hand, turning my head away in a defensive posture. He winds up and throws a third punch identical to the two previous, and I block this one too. In the middle of my first hockey fight, I have a thought. I think I have his timing down. He winds up again to throw another big punch, but I split it right down the middle and put my fist through his nostril. A heavy pie in the face overhand right bomb. It connects with the meat of his nose, explodes his face all over the place, drops him. The entire arena goes silent. No one knows what to do. I pick up my gloves, helmet, and stick, skate back to the bench, and take a seat. Something changes at that moment. I see how much respect and space is earned through a well timed punch in the face. For the rest of camp, no one so much as looks at me with anything but with respect and cordiality. I envision the player on the bench next to me offering me a bottle filled with Gatorade like a maitre d'. Mr. Robbins, would you like some water or perhaps a towel? How about some Gatorade, sir? I like this feeling. I want more of it. My confidence is growing, but I still feel insecure, still feel like that brown Tootsie Roll underneath it all. I feel like I don't belong. My suspicions are confirmed and I don't make but I receive a valuable lesson in my first hockey fight. For some reason, I possess another skill that most other hockey players don't have. I can chuck 'em. I can move ever so slightly with the most delicate electrical impulses from my nervous system and avoid being hit. I can whip my knuckles toward adversaries, make contact with soft skin, and explode their faces.
Wow. So
That's
that's what I'm talking about. You write at such an intense level the whole book. And
yeah.
it's hard to put the book down. It's amazing. It's that scene, it's like I'm there, and well done, man. That's all. That's what a scene that was.
It was crazy. Crazy first fight. But yeah, I tried to, yeah, for some reason I was able to capture it in a way like it's a magical way. So that's what the feedback has been. I haven't been able to put it down. I felt like I was there. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's music to an author's ears. So I appreciate those good words.
And so no question, you brawled it out, but at the same time, and you talked about it in that scene, the immense fear, which is a theme in the book, the facing your fears, the fear of fighting was always there. How hard was it? How hard was that anticipation, knowing that you had to fight, you were going to fight, and you were going to fight maybe a tough fucking guy?
It was, for me, it was a crippling fear. And that is a theme throughout the book and also a theme throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
And really publishing this book was a practice in facing my fear. because I talk about a lot of things in this book that are scary and vulnerable, and I just said I'm going to face my fear and I'm going to tell my story in the realest and rawest way. And I think I was able to do that because of all those trainings of 132 fights, and every one of those that was training wheels and facing my fear. And early on, especially in junior, I mean, it was crippling. It was a debilitating fear, and I think that really led into how do I face that fear? Well, I was quick to run to drugs and alcohol to cover it, and was able to exist in my addictions, and to I think addictions really bring you in the moment too. You're just focused on whatever chemicals flowing through you, and that allowed me not to think about tomorrow when I was going to have to fight Goonie McGinty or whatever tough guy I was going to have to fight. So yep, it was all just proving ground for me and learning, and especially when I turned pro, I failed early on in my career. I signed a deal with Ottawa and went there, and I should have been willing to do anything, willing to fight to the death, but I was a pussy, man. I was a coward, and I cowered in fear and covered up that shame with drugs and alcohol and the party and girls, and it wasn't until my fifth year pro when I finally decided that I was going to do it for real, where I said I was going to fight my come. I was playing in Europe, and I came back to North America to start in the East Coast Hockey League to really fight for real and fight my way to the NHL, kind of as a man chasing a destiny. And even then I felt the fear, but it got easier and easier every time. And then every time you face your fear and you do it, I think you level up. You level up a little bit. And then by the time I was NHL ready, I had the fear, but I was able to exist and dwell in that fear, and I was comfortable in it. And I
Mhm.
was willing to challenge myself and put myself out there and say, okay, I feel fear. That's okay that I feel it. I'm still gonna fight.
And a bit of a deeper question into that. Answer how you want, but some about the realities of the old school enforcers, the beasts. I'm talking about the Bugard, uh, Wade Belak, and most recently Chris Simon, and unfortunately many others that are not with us. Did that scare you at all when you were fighting your way to the NHL?
Yeah, I touch on that in my book. When I was my second year in my comeback, I was playing in the East Coast in Chicago, and that was right before I got called up to Providence. And once I got called up to Providence, it was like everything just came together. It was one of those things. But for those first 2 years, it was just feeling my way out, battling injuries, fighting big boys in the East Coast Hockey League. And when I was in Chicago, I was fighting all the heavies and really doing it legit. And then that article in the New York Times came out after I read that, and I remember just crying and being like, this is too much. Is this gonna happen to me?" And I had taken some shots in the head, and I had felt the damage, and, I just had this instinct. I was like, "Oh, no, is this is gonna happen to me too, isn't it?" And I really had a crisis at that year, and had talked to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I said, "Samantha," I was like, I don't know if I can do this." And for whatever reason, I just decided I had already come this far, and I saw a destiny that I was chasing. I saw that this was my way to change my life forever. I mean, financially, as well as just accomplishing a dream and making something of myself. And so I put it aside and I said I'm going to do it, and almost convinced myself that, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I got a free pass, or I got a really hard head, like I'm protected. I'd taken some shots in the head, and somebody cracks me in the forehead, and I'm just like didn't feel it. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I must have thick skull or something, and just thought that it would never get me. And man, it as you see in the book, it ended up getting me,
Mhm.
and I'm still in the battle. Still in the fight every day,
Yeah.
and it really breaks my heart when that happens to those guys because yeah, man, I'm in the fight. So
Yeah. And I do want to touch on the your sexual journey.
yeah,
It's a huge part of the book. And there's so much confusion. You're questioning your sexuality. You talk about a lot of intense sexual experiences. Was everything surrounding sex, you started at a young age picking up porno magazines. If you look back with everything surrounding sex, was it debilitating?
yeah. I mean, my sexual journey was certainly debilitating, I think, and I wanted to capture it. I mean, sex is the first word in the title, and it started. it starts with that scene. I'm a kid and I'm hearing about sex. I'm like in kindergarten and I know about sex. I'm like, I want to have sex with that girl. I know I could say her name, but she probably
Yeah.
is still on Facebook. But I remember this girl and I was like, I didn't even really know what sex was, but I kind of did. I was like, I know it's bodies coming together. And I just felt that draw to it early. And then there's a scene of me with a fighter, a metal fighter jet, and just jackhammering really big, like 1 foot tall letters, the word sex on the back of my dresser, and then pressing that dresser up against the wall to hide that shame and the fear of being caught, being found out. So that first scene of sex, where I introduce the reader to sex through my lens, is that shame of pushing that secret up against the wall, and then that is it's really a picture of sexuality for me, my experience, and then it goes into of brokenness. So it goes into a sexual abuse. It goes into pornography and confusion, and so I live my life of this like kind of this stud athlete. And I always, I did well with girls later on, in high school and in juniors in college. But there was always a shame hidden in there from probably from what happened to me as a kid, but also I think just from the damage that pornography causes. And I see that now as I'm a 42-year-old man and I have children of my own now, two boys, and I'm like, man, how can I protect my boys from the damage of pornography? Really, that I feel the lies of pornography,
Mhm.
and so pornography addiction just it led to confusion and led to my first sexual experience. And now I've done a lot of research and reading on this, and there's a thing that's very prevalent in the world among young men. It's called porn induced erectile dysfunction. So it's like you're fine when you're masturbating. You got just a rock hard horn, and then when
Mhm.
you actually have a sexual experience, it doesn't work. And so that
Mhm.
happened to me, and I document that pretty graphically in my book. And that wrecked me, man. That first sexual experience, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm gonna get my first time, and it doesn't work. That really wrecked me. And I kind of tucked that shame away and then, moved on to the next. And then, sometimes it was okay, sometimes it wasn't. I look back on it, I was on, you know, I'm on painkillers, I'm snorting Adderall, I'm chewing tobacco, I'm drunk. I'm like, oh, why isn't this working?
Mhm.
And obviously now I know that all those things affect that. But for whatever reason, that porn induced erectile dysfunction, that really opened a door, I think, for the enemy to whisper in my ear that of this confusion. I was like, oh, why isn't that working? You must be gay. And so I'm living my life as this athlete and chasing girls, but at the same time, there's this insecurity inside of me and this voice inside of me whispering these things. And so that really, I go into that in the book pretty deeply. And after my hockey career, once my career ended, my identity was a hockey fighter. Like I lived it and I breathed it, and that was it for me. And then once that was taken away, I really was like, well, who am I? What is this about? Like, am I just meat and bones? Is there something about my spirit? What is this voice that's in me? Am I gay? Why do I the typical jock athletes, all my teammates, and then all of a sudden, like I feel like an artist. Like I just want to write poetry and read literature. I'm like, why am I like this? Like this, maybe this is true. And so that led me on that path to really explore my sexuality and to find out who I am. Because at that point in my life, I just said, I just want the truth. Hockey's done. Life's at that point, I was like, life is done. I just want the truth. Whatever the truth is, I just want the truth. And so I went on that truth quest. And eventually, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but I found the truth. And it was because I was seeking it. And if you seek it, you'll find it. And but yeah, I mean, my whole story, my arc of my sexual story is darkness, brokenness, abuse, sickness, and then ultimately I think it's a boy becoming a man and wanting to find redemption, and then ultimately finding that redemption, and now having a pure, sexual relationship with my wife, without pornography. I'm no saint, man. I struggle with a lot of stuff, but the one battle that I've won is I was able to stop pornography.
Mhm.
And for, 8 going on 8 years now, and that's like the one thing that I'm not going to let back in. And I've said that about a lot of things, and I've stumbled and relapsed, but for whatever reason, I see the brokenness that porn caused in me. And so one of my reasons for being so graphic and raw and real in my book is I want to inspire young men to live a life set apart, to recognize the lie of pornography, and to fight against it. So if I could ever inspire somebody to do that, to be like, well, I don't want that to happen to me. I know a pro hockey player, same thing. We were having deep conversations, and he's like, yeah, man, we were talking about, porn induced erectile dysfunctions. Like, that was happening to me, man. And I was really messed me up, man. Like, am I gay? What is this? And so I'm like, well, if I experienced it, and this pro hockey player and another pro hockey player, you'd know these names, was like, I experienced that too. So, man, I just know, and hearing the feedback, it's a real thing. And uh and the evil, I think, of pornography, just in every level of it, really makes me mad. It makes me, I think it's a worthy fight for me
Yeah.
personally, and then also publicly to fight. Like, I really haven't talked too much. I'm kind of waiting. That's why I love your questions. I'm waiting for people to like ask me questions. I put out this Savage book, and I think a lot of people are like, well, what do I even say? Like, this is intense. So I determined that I would have real conversations of whatever people want to talk about, instead of saying, well, here's my three things, and I'm going to blast that out. i'm
Mhm.
i'm still trying to find my message. I mean, my message is just in my book. I captured my true essence in the book, and hopefully it'll inspire people to be better. And if sexual restoration and redemption is a part of that story for other people, that would be amazing, because it's definitely a part of my story.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think especially young men are really going to connect with his book, because sex is all around us, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
So, and you
I'm
going,
talking about it. I
yeah,
decided I'm doing it.
you're doing it, and we appreciate that, man. And you also, for the majority of your hockey career, you numbed yourself, like you said, a lot of drugs, and at all levels of your career, the weed, the pills, the chew was in your veins, you would say.
It was in me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to ask you this: was it you kept a lot to yourself? Was it difficult to ask for help?
For sure. And it still is. Like, I'm kind of a lone wolf, man. And I'm like, sometimes I look at the world like it's just me on this quest. This is my quest. I'm living it out. And man, I definitely struggle. I think a lot of men struggle to ask for help, and I certainly do. And even now, I mean, like, my wife's really concerned about my brain, if I can be completely transparent. She thinks I have CTE, and I've been kind of just in denial, and I'm like, I'm fine. But only recently, yesterday we had a talk. We were on an anniversary trip, and I finally said, all right, I'm willing to go to this clinic. It's this clinic, Dr. Amen. We've been listening to this guy, Dr. Amen, about brain health. He studied a lot of brains of football players, and he has a protocol that he says you can improve. You can take your brain health seriously in these ways. And so literally yesterday, I just said, all right, I'll do it, and I want to take my brain health seriously. And I'm trying to live healthy now. I'm trying to live sober. I'm trying to really take my mental health seriously, because I haven't in the past. And even while writing this book, I had my notion of an author is kind of like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hunter S. Thompson. He's my favorite author. I love reading his wild stuff. That's how I always picture just like this life of madness and extracting these words. And a lot of there is some truth in that. I did live that a lot while writing this book. But now I'm looking at my mental health, and I'm looking at my family and my marriage. And so I really want to take it seriously, and my brain health seriously. And so I did. Yesterday I made that commitment that I am going to ask for help, and say, well, things aren't perfect in there. And can I improve my brain to improve my life experience, but for me now, and more importantly, to improve it for my wife and for my family. But yeah, I struggle asking for help for sure, as I'm sure a lot of guys do, because I think it shows weakness, and we don't want to be weak, but sometimes we do have weakness in us, and that's okay.
For sure, man. Yeah, I applaud you for reaching out, man. Get better every day.
For sure.
Um, and how vivid you are with your highs in the book. You describe your highs. It's another element of how artistic you are. Um, First off, on your pursuit for your truth, you head over to I don't want to give too much jam away. You headed it over to Peru, ayahuasca. To be honest, that sounded like a fucking nightmare, that high. And even we talked about the chewing tobacco. Not many people think getting off of that chew was insane. It was in your veins and you had a little scare, so you wanted to get off of the chew. And you describing that withdrawal was, you went down to the cellular level pretty much.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I actually that part that of quitting tobacco, I had a lot of that was written in a blog post when I was still playing. So I wrote this 10,000 word 4-part blog post called Metamorphosis that ended up being the name of the chapter. And I wrote this thing, about my whole tobacco quit, and was really trying to inspire men and hockey players to quit tobacco, because man, it seems like not a big deal, but for me, it had its claws in deep, and I literally chewed all day, 2 cans a day, and I had a cancer scare. I had a little growth in my mouth that I had to get clipped out and a biopsy run on it, and I thought I was gonna die. Number one, I was like, am I gonna die, or worse, am I gonna get half of my face cut off and I'm just gonna be a monster now? And that was actually that's the halfway point of the book. That's chapter 7, literally right in the middle. That's where it turns. It's the metamorphosis. It's the change. And that was the biggest up until, at that moment in my life, that was the biggest accomplishment that I had done, was quitting tobacco, because I was absolutely a slave to it. And once I was able to quit tobacco, I had this like a moment of clarity in my mind, and I felt in my body as I was training, just like a smoothness of my blood flowing through me. And I had this epiphany. I was like, man, tobacco was affecting my athletic performance. It was affecting it for sure. And then I got really mad. And that was the catalyst. That was the springboard that put just a little thought in my mind. Man, if I can quit tobacco, I can do anything. I was like, maybe I could fight my way to the NHL. And so that was really the catalyst. This stupid, I know we talk about drug addiction and people are on heroin and hard drugs. And I never really got too deep into hard drugs, but it seemed like everything everything I tried, I got addicted to.
Mm-hmm.
And tobacco had me, man. It had me by the soul. And once I was able to quit that, I just said, this is the springboard. And it literally was that. After that happened, then that's when I made my comeback and decided that I was going to fight my way to the NHL.
Yeah, could you imagine when you first signed your first contract out of college, if you were just half sober or just off chew, you would have had a long NHL career.
Oh man, it's tough. It's actually tough looking back on it, and maybe there'll always be a sting, but I mean, this was my destiny for sure. That wouldn't have happened if I, this book wouldn't have happened if I just had the fairy tale NHL career, played, 700 games and life is good. But yeah, man, I always look back on, if I could have been the player in Providence, Boston, who I was in Ottawa, Binghamton, man, I would have made the NHL that year. It wouldn't have, not even it wouldn't have been a thing, like, for sure. But I was just a scared little boy, a scared little addicted boy at that time in my life, and I just wasn't ready. So, man, I would love it if some young player, like a college player, a junior player, read my book and got their stuff together and kind of was like, whoa, I don't want to, almost looked at it as like a warning story. Like, hey, I don't want to be that guy. And, cleans it up and then goes and makes something of their life. That would be so amazing, because man, I do have regret. I wish I could go back, but I just can't do it. Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Yeah, but I like how you said it's your destiny. And I think,
Right.
yeah, from me reading it, I guess we're all on a little quest of our own and a little journey. So you kind of made me realize that.
Hmm,
It's
cool.
guys, what a what a book. I enjoyed it, and we have to give credit to your wife. She stuck with you through a ton. Can you share a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
Samantha, she's the MVP of the story.
Yeah.
Um, she's she's an amazing woman, you know, and I talk about that tobacco quit being the catalyst, but it was a little bit before that. It was when I met my wife. So I came back from Belfast and I met this cute girl and we end up falling in love. And that's kind of looking back on it now with that in hindsight with 2020 vision. I'm like, oh, that's when things started to change too. You know, that saying behind every good man is a good woman. You know, I, I I had her in my life. All of a sudden, I was like, whoa, I do want to make something of my life. And well, what if I did make the NHL? Things would be different for us now. Like I didn't have anything. You know, I didn't have a house. I didn't have a car. I was playing in Europe, and I was like, things could be a lot different. And there was some of that resentment got turned into fuel to really go for it. But yeah, Samantha, she believed in me from day one. She didn't know anything about hockey. She came out to live with me in Slovenia when I played out there in the Austrian league. I didn't even play out there. She saw me and was like probably the worst player in the league. But when I told her that I was going to fight my way to the NHL, she believed it. Nobody else believed it. I believed it, and she believed it, and she said, "Let's do it." I think she saw too that it would make her life better. Um, and But she just always encouraged my dreams, and even with this book, I'm like, Sam, this is some savage stuff in here.
Mhm.
I'm either going to write a book, like I'm going all in on this, burning my ships, no plan B. This is either going to ruin me or it's going to make me, you know. And she said, I think you have to go for it. So she was always supportive of me, and man, she should have left me years ago. But as you read in the book, she stuck by me, and man, I really truly believe in the sanctity of marriage and the power of it, and I just know that we're two in one, man. Two have become one flesh in this marriage, and we've been blessed with these amazing kids. And I want to give her everything that she deserves now. I want this book to be huge and be a massive success so that she can have the life of her dreams because she deserves it. She's the MVP.
Beautiful. And some other power also stood by you the whole time. You know, it's in many ways you're lucky to be alive
Yeah.
reading this book, and you know, God was with you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, God was with me from the beginning, even when I didn't see it,
Hmm.
and even when I was running from him. And that's one of the things too, is what I wanted, the message I wanted to send, obviously, is the story of God's redemption. And you know, when I was coming up, I just didn't believe, and I didn't I don't know where you're at in your spirit quest, but as a young man, I believed the lie that it was a lie. And so I just rejected God, and I was an atheist, and I was my own God. And but all through that, even through that rebellion and the love of my flesh and the love of sin and everything the world offered of sex and drugs and hockey, and he was always there. And I could have been in jail, I could have been dead, hockey could have been over, but I would always get out of it, and then I would say, someone was looking out for me. Someone was looking out for me. And then I think it came to a head. It came to a point where he gave me a choice and said, "Well, I'm going to give you a shot here, and I'm going to give you a shot to be saved." And man, so my story is the story of my soul being saved. And my hope is that, you know, young men who are coming up will consider the reality of God, to consider the reality of Jesus and his death on the cross to pay for our sin, and his resurrection from the dead, and believe that, to and even if you don't believe it, to seek it out, because Jesus does say, seek and you will find. And man, I wish I had a voice like that saying that to me as a young man, that was said in this way, in this savage way, because that's the only way that I would listen. I
Yeah.
wouldn't listen to the pastor. I wouldn't listen to the corny Christian book or the Ned Flanders guy talking to me. But that was a purpose in writing my story. You know, it's sex, drugs, pucks, and souls. So my soul story, I wanted it to be real and raw, but I wanted it at the end. You know, at the end of the story, it's God's story that he's writing with me, and he gets the glory in the end. And so yeah, he never let me down, and he never will, and he's always been there for me. And my hope is that somebody who doesn't believe will read this book and at least consider it, and start looking and start their spirit quest.
Yeah. Amazing message, man. Before we get into some GOAT rapid fire, Bobby, where are we finding your book? BobbyRobbins.com. You just launched it. Where else could we get it?
Yeah, best place to get it is BobbyRobbins.com. If you want signed copies, this is first edition. The hardcover, I'm going to show you right here. This thing,
Wow, nice.
this thing is slick. Okay, hardcover is $30. Paperback, you know, is slick too. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, these are, so I have signed hardcover, personalized. You know, if you wanted to, you know, give a cool gift, or yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is it? I remember getting books from an author personalized. It's a cool thing.
I was so pumped when you sent this to us, man.
Cool,
Thank you,
man.
brother.
So yeah, you can get personalized copies for yourself as a gift. And that's all at BobbyRobbins.com, BOBBYROBINS, or you can just search it out on Amazon too. If you buy it on Amazon, I got to give a cut to Mr. Jeff Bezos, and I think he has enough money already. But
Yeah.
Whatever way you can get my book and man, I'd be so grateful for you to hear my story, because I did pour my heart and soul into it, and it is the real deal.
You did, man. You poured years into this book.
Yeah.
And you also the fans can also message you on your socials. You're great at responding back. So please send Bobby your questions anytime.
For sure. I always try and get back to everybody who writes me.
For sure. Bobby, GOAT rapid fire. You're going to give us your answer. You can expand if you want to, or you can say next question. Are you ready?
Ready.
Let's GOAT. What's your nickname?
Savage.
McDavid or McKinnon?
McDavid.
Kobe, LeBron, or MJ?
Oh, MJ. Speaking of MJ, I just watched his documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
What's it called? Last Dance.
Last Dance, yeah.
Mind blowing.
Unreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi?
Ronaldo.
Oh, nice. You're the first guy to say Ronaldo. And you know what? I hope he wins the Euro. That would be awesome.
I saw his documentary on Netflix too. I think that's why.
Yeah. Djokovic, Nadal, or Federer?
Oh, Nadal for sure.
Oh,
Guy's a legend.
Relentless.
A creature. Yeah. He's a creature, that guy.
Yeah. We love our wrestling here, our old school wrestling here at GOAT Radio. Stone Cold Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan?
Oh, Hogan for sure. Sorry, I see Mr. Austin back there.
Yeah.
Hogan's the man.
You know what? Hogan's my GOAT too, for sure. George Laraque or Donald Brashear?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd love to see them battle it out in front of me so I can make that decision.
Yeah.
Man. I think Laraque, just because of his size and power, like,
yeah,
he just would smother guys and tie him up. But oh man, Brashear, that left bomb. I'm gonna give it a tie. They got it. They're tied.
Nice, man. Best all-around city you played in Europe?
Oh, in Europe for sure, Belfast, Northern Ireland. That's a special place. And the Giants, what a cool organization. That was the year.
Nice. Okay, what nationality of players parties the hardest?
Oh, for sure, Wisconsinites.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I would probably have to give that one to the Canadians.
Yeah?
Yeah, Canadian, maybe even the Western Canadians.
Beautiful. Skull or Copenhagen? When you were
in a past life, I was a Grizzly man, but I will definitely, of those two, I would take Copenhagen long cut, freshly stamped on the bottom of the can within the week.
So you're half Filipino.
Yes, sir.
We love talking our food here. Are you going with the lumpia or the adobo?
Wow, look at this guy.
Yeah.
Well, lumpia is good, but I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I do cook a pretty mean chicken adobo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it makes an appearance every probably twice a month. So I'm gonna have to go with my personal adobo recipe.
Beauty. Okay. What are your superfoods you talking about in your book?
Superfoods. Well, first I made a move to all organic. So I would eat, my meals were brown rice, chicken breast, peas or broccoli. I was doing a lot of supplementation like spirulina, um, superfoods. I was eating, organic dates between periods. I was drinking organic green tea and had a little medley of organic raisins and almonds. Pop some raisins and almonds, organic green tea. That mixture, it's deadly.
Energy, eh?
Yeah.
What else were you drinking?
I drank a lot of things. Are you referring to
Yeah.
my secret sauce?
Yes.
Yeah, so I had a lot of. I mean, this is the secret life of a hockey fighter. So
Yeah.
I exposed a lot of secrets here, and one of the secrets was drinking my own urine. And one other secret that I haven't told many people, but I'll tell you here on Goat Radio
Yeah.
is my secret to, when I played my most effective hockey, I was blacked out, going
Yeah.
nuts. So what I would do is I would come into the locker room, I would squirt some Flexol or some atomic balm on my hands, and I would give it a little rub. And everybody knew I was going to do it, all the trainers and everything. And I would reach into my breezers and I would rub it on the old gonads. True story. So I'd rub it on there, and it'd make me crazy. And I
Wow.
remember reading about like bullfight, in a rodeo, they'd tie up the bull's balls, and so I don't know I don't know if I invented it or if I heard it,
Yeah.
but I would take a little bit of that. I started with a little dab, to feel a burn and make me a little crazy. But by the end, it was a full lather on there.
Buddy, that's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite inspirational quote?
Ooh. Favorite inspirational quote would probably it'd have to come from the Bible, and it's "I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me."
Beautiful. Would you rather fight a righty or lefty?
I hated fighting lefties, man. I think that maybe I had a mental blockage, but I heard early on it was tough. I got knocked out by a lefty in junior. Yeah, definitely righty. I love fighting righties, just going toe to toe, back and forth. You get a little rhythm back and forth, a push and a pull. But anytime they'd switch up to lefty, it messed me up. So righty for sure.
Over 132 pro fights, who punched you the hardest?
For sure, Brett Gallant.
Gallant. Wow.
Brett Gallant, man, he had a superpower or something. But yeah, he cracked me one time in the middle of my forehead. It made a little dent in my forehead that was there for like 2 months. And this soft, squishy, it was a black circle. Looked like a little hockey puck in the middle of my forehead.
Oh my gosh.
It just cracked me. Yeah, I've seen him knock some guys out. And his punches, some punches you get hit with and you just kind of going back and forth, you don't feel it.
Yeah.
The worst is in the middle of a fight when you get hit and you're like, that really hurt. That really hurt and that deflated me. And it seems like every time he punched me, I would feel it.
Wow. Okay. The coach that helped you the most to reach your NHL dream?
Yeah, for sure. Bruce Cassidy. Got to play for Bruce my whole time in Providence before he went up to Boston. And just to have a coach, he believed in me and encouraged me. And I think he saw that I had what it takes. And he was just that's what a coach does, is he coaches you and instructs you and nurtures you and brings you up to the level that your potential, what the level of your potential. And that's what he did for me. And I'll always love that guy.
Awesome. When you debuted with the Bruins, who had the heavyweight belt in the league?
Who had it then? I know Reeves was the big guy. I think a lot of the big guns had left. Like the McGrattan had been
Mhm.
the year before he got sent down. Finished out his career in the AHL. So I think it might have been Revo at that time. He was kind of early on in his heavyweight reign.
Yeah, and probably a few guys on the Bruins maybe.
Yeah,
Chara. I mean, he didn't fight
Chara,
too
right.
much. He didn't fight too much, but I'm sure feared.
I mean, as far as the scrappers, I think Eric Bolton was still around, and
And
he's a tough guy for
and
New York.
Big Luch.
Yeah, Luch for sure. I mean, yeah, I don't even put really Luch and Chara in those fighter categories just because they're such effective players. You know,
Yeah.
they can fight when when they have to or when they want to, but I mean, those guys are on another level to be able to play at a high level and not even have to fight. That's when you're, you know, on a whole nother level.
Yeah, and you know, you consider yourself after everything a hockey fighter, but you played the game. You know, you don't just get you're a captain of your NCAA team, the Riverhawks, Lowell. So you definitely had you were effective besides the fight part of it.
For sure. And that was what set me apart, I think, because I could
Yeah.
fight a lot of the heavyweights. I could fight the Brett Gallants. I could fight these guys, especially in the American League had a lot of tough guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe they didn't have quite the skill level to be able to play in the NHL. They could definitely be heavyweights in the NHL, but they didn't have whatever that is to be able to play that effective regular shift. But for whatever reason, that's what I had, and I knew that. I was like, I know I can play, and if I just implement fighting too, once those two combine, I know that I can make it to the NHL.
Yes. Okay, because this is GOAT Radio, who is the GOAT hockey enforcer?
The goat, oh man, of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you know how it is in the UP. I'm right across the border in Wisconsin. So this was back in the 80s, 90s. You know, we would catch the Red Wings games, and for sure, Bob Probert.
Wow. 100%.
Yeah. Much
Complete.
respect to that guy. He was a scary guy. You just stand right in there, take him and chuck him.
Take him, chuck him, and he could play.
Yeah, he could play 20 goals.
We had
1 year.
one of my coaches, Mel Pearson in Michigan Tech. He said he could receive passes like you wouldn't believe.
Wow.
He was a special guy. Bobby, I'm so pumped about this podcast. Jam packed. And I always finish it off with a toast to the GOAT. It's you today, okay?
Nice. I think I have one here for you.
Oh wow. So
What are we drinking?
Oh, I got some homemade moonshine, brother. I'm Serbian.
Come on. Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Man. Okay.
So, and Bobby, I just gotta say, when I think of you, man, I think of just complete raw passion, dedication, man. And a lot of people are gonna connect with your journey, with your story, man. This one's for you, brother. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Oh, is there that a boy?
Not moonshine.
Yeah, it's all
reverse
good.
osmosis water.
Oh, nice. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
Oh, what do I want to say? Well, thank you for having me. First of all, amazing to be here. Wishing you huge success with your podcast, with your business, with everything you do post hockey. I love seeing guys moving on to chapter 2 and doing awesome things. So great seeing you guys doing that. If I get to Vancouver, I would love to come in studio. I think that'd be awesome. It'd be great to meet you in person.
100%.
And just want to say thanks to everybody who's listening. And you know, if you want to hear the real deal, the real story, this is different than the other ones. This is a literary savage memoir, a pure soul and essence that somehow was captured in these pages. Just head over to bobbyrobbins.com, and I guess I will end with this. A lot of times I write as an autograph, I say knuckles up. And so that's a fight term of, you know, when you're in a fight, you want to try and keep your knuckles up. It's good defensive posture, but it's good offensive posture. And, you know, we're not all hockey fighters, but I promise you, we're all in a fight in one way or another. We're fighting stuff in our hearts and our minds. We're fighting for what we believe in. We're fighting our battles. And if you read my story, that's a man who almost lost his fight. And I just want to encourage whoever is listening to keep your knuckles up in the fight. Don't lose the fight, because there is a greater purpose. God has a greater purpose for you in your life. And just whatever happens, don't give up the fight and keep those knuckles up.
Beautiful. We'll end it with that. This is the greatest of all time podcast show, GOAT Radio. We will see you next time for more GOAT history. We'll see you later. Thanks, Savage.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. Best of luck.
Yeah.